Hello, friends. I will be doing a series of articles on distributed computing, microservices using cloud-native patterns. My name is Prakash Patisapu. I've been working in the IT industry for about 20 years now. And over the past 10, 12 years, I've been working as an architect in e-commerce, healthcare, and investment banking. So today, we'll be looking through an article titled How to Build Software Platforms. And as part of that, I'll be showing you a template that I've worked on recently to bootstrap microservices. So what is a software platform? A software platform is a combination of tools and processes, governance, templates, framework, services, and infrastructure. So only if all of these things come together can you build a software platform. I've been fortunate enough to work with many brilliant people over the past few years building enterprise software in healthcare and investment banking. So today I'm going to start the demo with what we did to bootstrap templates. Like I said, enterprise architecture consists. One of the things in enterprise architecture is templates. Templates give you a nice segue into the boilerplate code that forms the foundation or the basis for the developer to build their code on, right? So as you can see here, we have a template called a cloud microservice template. This is a multi-project .NET 6 template. By the way, we'll be using C# as our main programming language on the .NET 6 platform, which is cross-platform, by the way. So the cloud microservices template, once the developer says, let's use that, you click next. Let's say I'm going to create something called a payment microservice, right? Let's say create. So as the solution is bootstrapped, it will create different projects: your API project, your event project, your domain project, and your infrastructure project. So all these projects encompass what the developer needs to do to get their microservices up and running. Not just bootstrapping of the solutions. The developer, as soon as the solution appears, which it will in a minute, the developer can just hit the F5 button to start debugging the solution. And they can attach the Visual Studio Debugger, step through the lines of code, and basically build on top of that. So the template writes all the boilerplate code that is necessary for a microservice to be bootstrapped. One more thing is we are going to use a tool called Project Tie. Project Tie is an open source tool where it can orchestrate locally hosted services, right? So it can orchestrate any Docker image. You can just reference the Docker image in your tie.yaml file, and it can also directly orchestrate your C# projects. You can reference your CS proj file. You don't need a Docker container. So looks like our project has been bootstrapped here. So you can see that it created a bunch of assets here. One is the build assets, which basically contains your Docker file. It also has a charts folder for your Kubernetes deployment. We are not going to be covering that today, probably at a later date. It has a migrations folder for your SQL migrations. It's going to run your migrations using a tool called Flyway in the background. It also has an API project. It has a domain project. It has an events project and an infrastructure project, right? So all the developer needs to do, come in here and click on tie, right? So that tie is basically defined as a launch, one of the launch settings in your launch settings.json file. So it'll start your tie command line, and then it'll load the project details, and it'll orchestrate whatever projects that you want it to orchestrate. And those projects can be defined in your tie YAML file. By default, the tie YAML file is named as tie-your service name.yaml. Since we're building a patient service, it's tie-patient.yaml. So here we are using our local volume mounts to store the Postgres related data. So internally, we are going to use a Postgres container for our relational database needs. And we are also referencing the payment API layer here, the cloud payment API, API.cs branch. Okay. And it is actually building the project in the background now. So while it's doing that, you can see that we have defined a single controller called the payments controller. So I would actually let it run for a little bit, and it's going to bootstrap all the solutions in a single control plane. Okay, so it looks like Ty has orchestrated our components. If you go to localhost 8000, you can see that our DB store has been initialized, as well as our payment API. So you can actually directly go into the Ty dashboard and look at the logs here. And you can also look at the logs for our databases. So you can see that our database, our create database is succeeded. Okay, so now let's go to our API layer. And wait for the API to come up. It's going to take a little bit for the first time for the API to show up. So let's just wait for it. Okay, so looks like our API services has been successfully bootstrapped. You can see that it ran the migration script, which is defined here in the migrations folder in our solution. Also, at Bootstrap or database store or DB store. So if you click on this link here, you can see that the Swagger UI has been initialized, and it created 3 endpoints for you. So you have the post, you have the put, and you have a get. So let's just go ahead and exercise these endpoints. Execute. You can see that there are a couple of validation errors. We're using a pattern called the mediator pattern. Right, so mediator pattern comes with its own validation logic to validate your DTOs, your data transfer objects. So quantity and amount should be greater than 0, between 1 and 100. So let's just put 10 there, and possibly 5 there. Say execute. You can see that we have a successful response. The ID is 1. This is just a sequence number in the Postgres database. Let's go to our payment gateway here, our payment get operation here. Enter 1, execute. You can see that we have a response back. So what we did here is we provided a core, a base template, a foundation for the developers to build on, right? So this allows the developers to be productive right away. They know exactly where to put their business logic. In this case, they are actually going to put it in the domain layer. Right, so this is where in aggregates, payment, you have payment.cs, and that actually inherits from a base entity class. It implements the iAggregate root interface. If you follow some of Martin Fowler's domain-driven design philosophies, he talks about aggregates, aggregate roots, value objects, and so on. So this template also follows the same thing, right, in establishing the service boundaries. So yeah, so this is a fully working solution with just a single template and a one-click start and deploy and debug of your solution. Hopefully this session has been very useful to you, and we'll meet up again in the second session. Thank you.